Hey guys, it's Rob with Keyboard Warriors, and today we're going to go over how to set up your car for drifting in Forza Horizon 3. All we're going to go over today is some basic setups and how to tune your car, and maybe we'll go over drifting in another video. But if you're having problems sliding or you just really don't know how to get your car tuned right and responsive, we'll go over today a little bit of the mechanics behind it and how to actually set your car up for it in-game and whether or not it mirrors the actual things that you need in real life. So let's go take a look. Okay, your first step is cars. Let's take a look at some cars and see what we want to use. If you go to garage, go to my cars. I'm going to be using the 2014 BMW M4 Coupe. This is a starter car, something you guys could have started with. So hopefully this kind of helps you get in the right mindset. If you have something all-wheel drive or front-wheel drive, you really don't want to touch it in terms of this tutorial, so let's kind of avoid it. And if you have the M4 Coupe, that's what the tutorial is based off of. Or if you have the Trollvo, the Troll Volvo, you could use one of those too. I don't care, whatever you want. So get in it and we'll go to step 2. Now before we do anything in the upgrade shop, I'm going to say if you guys want to be lazy and you have the M4 or a couple other cars that I've worked with, you can go to your setup manager, load setup, search, and then enter my gamer tag in the creator field. My gamer tag is xFancyPantless. And then go down to search. That's because I'm fancy and I don't wear pants. You can see my tunes. There's 2 tunes you need to worry about. There is the Race Tune 01, which is the reset in case you forget to save your tune or you just don't know what to go back to. And there is the M4 Drift Tune V, whatever. Those numbers are simply just relative to the versions of tunes that I put out. So if I put out another tune, I might put out another video. Who knows? Just know that that highest number is the one you can use. If you want to be more in depth, follow my guide here. Alright, with the engine, there is one important thing you need to worry about, and it is this graph right here, this dyno graph. So that shows your horsepower on the left column, or on the left side, versus your RPM, which is down at the bottom. So the higher your car revs, the more right the graph is. The more power it makes, the higher the lines are on the graph. What you want is a nice linear setup for power, or torque rather, because torque is what makes the wheels spin. So if you have a V8 swap, for example, let's look at this nice. The more solid line is the V8, the more transparent line is the current setup in the car. You can see a much more linear curve, much more predictable curve of how fast your wheels are going to spin with the V8 setup. Now that does change with forced induction and however else you're using or powering the car. If you have the chance to use a turbocharger versus supercharger, a turbocharger will be a much more unpredictable setup versus a supercharger. That's because the supercharger has a linear power band because the power goes up because the supercharger is belt driven relative to the motor's speed. So if you have the option, go supercharger. If not, turbocharger is fine. Upgrades. The fastest upgrade route is to install cams and whatever highest or biggest turbo or forced induction setup you can set up. Again, if you have the option to do supercharger, go supercharger. If not, I installed the race turbos in here. Race turbos give us a nice bump of 88 horsepower versus whatever else it had in it. And cams give us about 84 horsepower. So we can see there combined that makes what, 172, something like that, extra horsepower for pretty cheap. So that's all we want really in the engine department. Next, let's go to platform and handling. Springs and dampers. All right. So you may have race springs and dampers. You might have something stock on. But what I'm going to tell you is a little bit unorthodox, and I'm going to say go with the rally springs and dampers. You might say, why, Rob? It's raising my car. That looks like ass. Braking's down, handling's down. What's going on? Well, I don't care. We're going to adjust that later. What you're going to get out of that is more angle. So just know that you need the race spring and dampers. Rear anti-roll bars, these are also called sway bars. Throw in a race sway bar. It's going to make the suspension mimic the travel on the opposite end. That's something you want. And weight reduction, everybody needs to go on a diet, myself included. But you can see that definitely shaves off a bunch of weight at 620 pounds. So grab a weight race reduction, and that is it there. Drivetrain. Drivetrain's also important. We don't care about clutch, but we might care about transmission. This is optional. If you need to adjust how fast your wheels spin because the car is undrivable, you'll need the race transmission. I would say install it just in case. If not, you don't have to. But just know if your car is undrivable and spins out of control, you may need that. Race diff. What is the race diff versus the regular diff? Well, your regular diff is an open differential, meaning that one wheel spins, the other wheel does not. Race diff is an limited slip differential, meaning both wheels will spin. So if you're going down the road, you hit the clutch, you release the clutch, and all of a sudden both your wheels are spinning, or you put two lines on the road, this is why. More importantly is the reason you have a differential in your car. That's to match the different speeds of your rear wheels. So for example, if you're making a left turn, your right wheel, the outside wheel, will travel faster than the left wheel, the inside wheel, and that's to help keep stability and understand that you're having less of a travel as you make that turn. So just install a race diff. That's what you need to know. Tires and rims. Now Forza, they're called wheels. I'll let you go this time. But what we'll need to know in there is tire compound. You do not want your stock tire compound. You do not want your rally tire compound, because those both are reduced grip. And you might be thinking, but I want reduced grip. I don't want to grip the road. And that's true, kind of. You want to grip the road in the front, because otherwise you're going to push, and that's going to result in understeer. You don't want understeer, you want oversteer. So we're going to put on the race tires. I put on the fancy Scene Kid letters, because now paint pens are the big thing for stance cars or whatever. So I put on the Horizon race tire compound. Front tire width, I went with happy medium, because again, we don't want too much traction, but we want enough not to push. For the rears, I put as meaty as possible, and that's because when we want to turn, we're going to want as much contact area as possible to make the turn, but we still want to spin tires to initiate a drift. And that's where our whole power thing comes into play, where we want more power. So again, you can also see that there's camber there, meaning when we actually go to dump the clutch or initiate a drift, if we're not in a turn already, we're going to have less contact area on the pavement. So we also compromise that by tuning the suspension later on. So big tires. What else do we need to know? That's really it. Those are really all we need. So let's go back and we'll install our setup, and we'll go tune. All right, tuning. Let's go over tuning. Tire pressure first. We're going to jump our tire pressure up in the rear. I'm going to set to about 45. The higher pressure you have in the rear, the easier it's going to be to spin the tire. So more pressure, more spin. Cool. We're also going to look at gearing. Again, this is that whole transmission thing I was talking about. If you have a higher gear ratio, you're going to spin fast, or you're not going to spin fast, you're going to accelerate faster, which I guess means your wheels will spin faster as you get there. So the lower final drive number, the higher speed you're going to have, but the slower you're going to accelerate. And the higher number you have, the faster you're going to get there, but the slower you're going to be overall. If you have a car that's completely undrivable because the wheels constantly spin when you hit the gas, playing with these numbers are going to help a lot. First, second, third are really going to be your power gears that you're going to play in. For me, it's third and fourth because of the amount of power the car has, but you can adjust these, accordingly to make your car a little bit more drivable. Alignment. We're going to give about 50% negative camber and 100% negative camber in the rear. So 50% in the front, 100% in the rear. This means we're going to have less contact area until we make a turn. As the car rolls and makes a turn, we're going to have more contact area with the pavement. Toe, we don't care about rear toe. We want that zeroed out. Front toe, however, we want as much as possible, and that's going to help us with angle. And angle is the, angle of the drift. So that means as we force our car to go more sideways, we're going to need more angle to keep from spinning out. Caster is the angle relative to the axis of your suspension. So if you have more caster in the front, that means your wheels sit a little bit more forward than the suspension, or your strut rather. So keeping a higher caster angle is going to give you a little bit more room to have the car self-steer and straighten itself out. Anti-roll bars, we really don't care about the front. If you don't install one, your front's going to be locked. But our rear, we want as stiff as possible so it's predictable. Same goes with springs. We want to make the springs front and rear as high as possible. That's going to make the drifts completely predictable and responsive to what you need. Now, we don't want our car looking like ass, so we're going to slam it. Let's make it low. That's what we want with that. Damping rebound stiffness versus bump stiffness. Rebound is the amount of time or the amount of stiffness it takes for the suspension to travel back to where it was before it was compressed. Bump is the amount of pressure it takes to compress it. So just to be kind of predictive, we're going to give it about, let's give it about 50% for bump and 75% for rebound just in the rear. We don't want to edit that front value. We don't care about the front value. It's the rear that we really care about. We don't care about aero, we don't care about brake, but we do care about differential. Again, for predictability, let's kick acceleration, deceleration all the way up and apply our settings. And that's it, guys. You can go ahead and drift now. You can go and play. I'll show you guys a couple examples of what this can do. And let's play. If you guys use my tune, or if this video helped you in any way, please give it a like. You can also give us a subscribe or follow us on Twitch. We do live stream pretty much every night, or we put some neat videos on here every once in a while. So Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, whatever, follow us, Twitter, yeah.